We're going to play a game.
Sure, I love games.
And I'm going to show you 3 pictures. And you get 1 point if you identify the picture, and you get 5 points if you come up with an interesting story about the picture.
Wow,
Yeah.
I like this game already.
Yeah, so here you go. Here's the first picture.
First picture, that is Kitsilano Secondary School.
Yeah.
That is my high school.
Yeah, so you get the 1 point for that. Tell me something interesting about your time in high school.
In high school, terrified to go to. I actually was at a school called Prince of Wales before that. I did an amazing program there that's sort of where I became an environmentalist to a certain degree, which was this program called Trek, Clatwa Trek they had, which is kids get to immerse themselves in the outdoors. They spend 6 months doing school, and then 6 months, you do a year's worth of schoolwork in 6 months, and then the rest of the time you're outside. Amazing, amazing program. But then I had to go back into the main school system, and I was like a real introvert as a kid. I did not like school. I did not like the social pressures. I did not like the dynamics.
See, that sounds like it might be myth-making, because you seem hardly introverted now, but you really were like that?
Okay, this is a bit of a tangent, but I have always had this sort of thing where, I think about Dave Letterman sometimes when I would go on the Dave Letterman show, and that's a big talk show to go on. And, he doesn't do the show anymore, but I remember he was always the guy that other performers, when they were going on the show, had some reverence for, a little bit of fear, because you don't know what's going to happen. If he doesn't like you, how does this go? That sort of thing. And I used to stand behind that curtain as they were announcing my name and thinking, I'm going to die. Like, I'm actually, when that curtain opens, I'm either just going to, fall out of it like a comedic corpse bashing off the ground, or I'm just going to projectile vomit over everybody. And as soon as he called my name and I start to step out there, I noted that this sort of little guy takes over. And this little guy's confident and he can throw a joke around here and there and all that stuff. And then I realized that that's the same guy that is responsible for my career, responsible for a lot of the things that I get to do. He's not necessarily the real me, but he keeps me safe and protects me. So that guy has kind of been around since high school. And I could turn him on and off a lot better as I got older. But when I was younger, I struggled with that stuff. And I don't look back at it with a boo-hoo story. I mean, I've learned more from failures and insecurities and all sorts of things than I've ever learned from successes in life.
Second picture.
Second picture. Oh gosh, I would say that's probably a not up-to-date photo of the 25th and Oak Safeway store.
It is
Am I right?
Completely up-to-date picture. My wife took this picture this week.
What? Can I see it?
Yeah. That's the old stomping grounds.
I used to face this fridge out. I would have to make sure everything was just perfectly smooth and all the labels out. I loved working at Safeway. I worked, a lot of the time I worked there was midnight to 8 a.m., the sort of graveyard shift, which was interesting. And then I moved to cashier. I did everything in that store.
You were a cashier there?
Yeah, I was also a cashier. I also bagged groceries. I used to bag Sarah McLachlan's groceries.
Wow.
And I always noted that she was incredibly kind to everybody that she met in that store. Didn't have to be. No one even knew it was her. Half the time she had a toque pulled down, and I always knew that was her. And yeah, she was awesome.
Again, full 5 points for that.
Points.
Okay, final picture here, landmark, Vancouver.
Limo, well, that's the viaduct right there.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I wanna shoot, baby. Shoot, shoot, baby. Shoot, baby. Shoot, baby.
That was my first sort of foray into properly producing a movie and managing budgets and all kinds of stuff. And boy, that Georgia Viaduct saved our life. It really did, because we had to cut all these huge action sequences and replace spectacle with character, which later in my life became an enormous lesson in marketing and every other business I would pursue, that necessity being the mother of invention is the greatest creative tool you could ever have. But a lot of those lessons were kind of forged in 2015 as I sat on that Georgia Viaduct trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to get through this movie on the paltry amount of money they've given us to shoot it.
One of the really interesting things for me to see your work is your voice seems consistent. So from movies to ads to viral videos that you do. And let's talk about the ads for a moment. How did that come about?
I created a marketing company. I created a production company called Maximum Effort Productions, which became, or an offshoot of it became Maximum Effort Marketing, which became a juggernaut. It just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it happened sort of by accident. I bought Aviation Gin, which is a gin company that I couldn't really find anywhere, so I knew it was the top-rated gin, in the world at the time, and there was such a small or sort of low supply of it. So I saw a real space there to kind of grow this company, and I needed marketing to back that up. So I started my own marketing company with my partner, George Dewey. People come up to me all the time and they say, what makes Aviation Gin so delicious? Most of the time I run away because non-celebrities frighten me. At the end of the day, it's just about telling stories. I mean, whether you're telling stories in marketing or whether you're telling stories in movies, that's always the sort of congruent sort of factor that ties them all together, is it's storytelling.
They asked me to write you a number to show you just how we all feel. We know you're a fan of the land we call Canada, but here's what I've got to reveal: that Canada loves you back. Canada loves you back.
So, actor, entrepreneur, creative person, and philanthropist. I mean, you and your wife seem to have really embraced charitable giving. And so that video, for example, for the Governor General's Award, at the end, there's those credits that roll, or the thank yous, basically. I assume that a lot of people in your business give a certain amount of money, but the thing that with you is that it just seems so thoughtful and varied. And I just wonder, this is actually my wife's question for you. She was wondering, where does this come from? Where in your life or your wife's life did the inspiration come to be so charitable?
Oh boy, I don't know. I mean, I think that we're, part of why I've been successful, I think, in my business life is being somewhat self-aware, and I understand the idea that when you extract a lot from a system, you need to put some back in as well. So part of it comes from that. I can't, safely say that I would enjoy my position in life if I wasn't sharing it. Not just sharing wealth, but also sharing power, stepping aside where appropriate as well. And you can do all these things, and at the end of the day, like, you're still doing all right.
Yeah.
It doesn't change much for your own personal situation, other than it really feels great. But typically the organizations that we give to and the organizations that we support and the foundations that we create are usually something to do with sustainability. Sustainability in communities, sustainability in infrastructure to create jobs for folks who don't normally have that access or opportunity to those jobs. And that's the stuff I really love. Sick Kids Foundation is a big one that we do stuff for every year, and that is a sustainable way to give. It isn't a one-time thing. It's sort of just, it grows and grows and grows. And I think of, sharing, I don't want to call it charity, but sharing as an investment. They're all just investments, They might not necessarily return dollars to you, but they'll make the world a better place. They'll make Canada a better place. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the goal. It's like I grew up here, and I want it to be better.
You're having a moment. It's been going on for a while, but it's still like we're kind of a lot of success, right? You have a lot of success now in a business that can be really fickle. And so do you wonder if in 5 or 10 years, all this magic will still be as potent as it is right now?
Ian, I've never had like a high expectation of anything. There's no part of me that's like, I deserve this or I expect this. Anybody that's managed to come as far as I've come in this business, it's certainly hard work is there, but there's a huge component of luck and circumstance and being in the right place at the right time, and then also being a person who is given access and opportunity at an early age, that I was born into, and understanding that privilege and what that is. So my highest goal in show business was to be the wacky neighbor in a sitcom. Quite literally. Like, if I could go to Los Angeles, I started an improv comedy. If I could go to Los Angeles, I could get a job as the wacky neighbor in a sitcom, I would be set. That was all I ever really wanted. So everything else that's happened, and it's all happened quite slowly, has been a kind of an aggregate. If you want to call it fame or any of that stuff, it's always been very slow.
Today we honor, with the 2,596th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Ryan Reynolds.
By virtue of that fact, it's much easier to kind of watch and regulate and keep your head screwed on right, because it's not happening. I don't know how these young kids who just have this overnight success that is like a tidal wave, I don't know how they keep their heads, and oftentimes they don't, and I see the pitfalls of what this business can be like when it happens sort of in a flash flood kind of sense. So for me, I was very lucky. I was trying to make things happen fast at times, and other times I would just push it away. So it happened very slowly, and it was in a way kind of gave me a sort of the benefit of immersion that was, that not everyone gets.
I wondered what you'd seem like in person, and you do seem very level-headed. So
You just wait.
that's-
I am going to toss all of this expensive camera gear around as soon as I leave. It's just one of the things I like to do at the end of an interview to create more of a myth.
Excellent.
Oh God, totally normal on camera, and then just lost it.
We'll keep
at the
rolling
end.
then.
Yeah, I would roll for it. It'll be great footage, great ratings, I think.